In postseason football, you need to find that extra gear. On FanDuel, it's called Playoff Mode. Big boosts, more rewards, and a whole new way to live parlay with Drive SGP. Turn on Playoff Mode, only on FanDuel.
New customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Broadcasting from the neutral zone, where every perspective gets diplomatic immunity. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Why do your pets eat well, but can't stop grazing your lawn? What is the science behind your cat and your dog eating grass like an all-you-can-eat salad bar? Is it instinct? Is it digestion? Is it pleasure? Is it just vibes? Well, we're going to discuss that with Rachael Funnell, a science writer at IFL Science. Rachael, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleased to be here.
At the break, you were telling me you had a kitty. Does your cat eat the grass? Because when mine eats things like that, he does it. He's so excited, and then he throws up.
Well, yeah, it's actually the inspiration for this article was that I was dog sitting for my parents. So they've got a lovely golden retriever called Holly, and I'd brought my cat Ralph along, and I was sort of reading my book, and I looked up, and I was like, what is going on? Like, they're both just sort of doing these loops, chewing on the ground like two cows. And I just thought it seemed pretty strange, two famously carnivorous animals. You buy them all as fancy pet food, and then they're just mad for grass. But yeah, Ralph definitely loves him a bit of the salad.
Don't get me started on the expensive pet food. Okay, so when I see my cat or my dog, and there may be different reasons for each species, but when I see them eating grass, most owners usually panic. Should we chill about this? Like, is it okay if our pets go for things that might make them throw up?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned that thing about the throwing up, because we could touch on this later, but there's sort of conflicting evidence about whether or not it has an effect on their guts. But the take home is that no, you don't need to panic. With grass especially, it's very common, it seems. There's a couple of reasons we have to sort of explain why it might be happening. As you say, like, it could just come down to vibes sometimes. I know that, like, my parents' dog will eat literally anything.
My cat, his only goal in life is to eat crunchy, crispy plastic pieces, like tape off of a package, and then immediately throw up. That's his great joy, to eat plastic and then get sick.
This is it, right? We're looking for clever reasons to understand the behavior of our fluffy little idiots, but there is some fun science to explore with it.
Okay, so let's dive into it. You mentioned that maybe I have a misunderstanding that animals eat grass and then get sick or do sick. I feel like in British English you say that a little different.
Yeah, we go for throw up, I feel.
Throw up. Okay, puke. What? I'm being gross at this point. Why is that story popular, and why is it maybe not the full truth?
Yeah, so like definitely a lot of people will say, oh, my cat or dog, they go out and they eat this grass, so they're feeling sick, and then they eat and it helps them vomit. So far as we can tell, the study into cats that looked into it, it was about 1,000 pet owners, and 70% or so said that their cats were eating grass. So very common behaviour. But of those people that said, yes, my cat eats grass, about 90% said it had nothing to do with them being sick or feeling sick. I know anecdotally for me, when my cat Ralph eats grass, I've yet to see him be sick afterwards. But I do remember with my old family cats, they definitely sometimes would eat and be sick. So it's certainly a thing that does happen. However, that the research into it shows that it's not as widespread as the behaviour is itself, suggests that it's probably not a direct, I feel sick, so I'm going to eat, and then this grass is going to help me vomit, right? But there is something else that could be explaining it, to do with our digestion. And it all comes down to the fact that there was a time when cats weren't called things like Ralph, and I know you said your cat's called Tomato.
Yes, of course.
There was a time when they were wild animals, and they would have been out roaming around. They might have eaten some scavenged food that's covered in disgusting maggots, or they could have eaten an animal that itself was sick in a way that wouldn't be immediately obvious. In the same way that for a human, if you eat untreated meat and it has parasites in it, you consume that meat, you're going to end up with parasites.
Happens to me on the daily.
Right? It's a daily threat. And for humans, we have these medicines. If you have your domestic cat, hopefully has, preventative treatments to stop this kind of infection. But as a wild animal, there's not very much you can do about having bugs in your tummy, except that we do know that eating grass has a habit of stimulating the muscles in your digestive tract. So they're going to crunch around a bit. And the theory goes that in doing that, you're going to kind of dislodge these parasites, and it will assist them in leaving the body in the way that things usually do. So it may have been a sort of really clever sort of self-medicating behavior for when our cats were wild animals.
Interesting.
Yeah. And as for why do they still do it then if they haven't got parasites now? Well, it's just not how evolution works. For these behaviors to disappear, there has to be a kind of pressure. So the theory is it's just a kind of vestige of evolution, something that's ingrained in them. They don't know they're doing it, but they just can't help themselves.
And owners yelling at cats, domesticated cats for hundreds of years, don't eat that grass, and then the cat doing it anyway. That isn't enough evolutionary pressure, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm afraid you just can't, beat out the old ancestors. So it is, it's interesting. And we think that probably a similar story is true for dogs, right? So there was a couple of other papers I found on this topic for dogs, and it was similar numbers. I think one, it was 68% ate plants, 79%. Not to call out any pets out there, but it looks like if they're not eating grass, they're the weirdos, not the other way around.
Now, should we ever intervene as owners? I know there's a product called cat grass. Now, I don't want to insult the big cat grass industry. They have a stranglehold on the global economics. But is it kind of a scam? Is that just regular grass? We shouldn't intervene?
Yeah, I guess the key thing would be that grass is fine, but you need to know it's not treated, right? That's an important caveat. And obviously when it comes to things like plants, there's a long list of things that cats and dogs can and can't eat, and it differs for both of them. So that's always important to keep track of. But yeah, if you're just in the park and so far as you know it's not been treated, it's going to be fine.
Zooming out, there's got to be a lesson here that this behavior teach us about our pets' inner lives. In many ways, they're still driven by ancient instincts, not the modern lifestyle that the pampered pet has in your house today.
Well, I think that's such a good point, right? Because, we sit at home with these cuddly, adorable things, and I feel like stuff like this really drives home the message that domestication is such a powerful tool. I mean, how amazing is it that we've gone from these wild canids and these wild felines that, would have slit your throat at the chance back in the day, and now we've groomed them into these incredible companion animals that give us so much joy. But there's just these little hints, these little reminders that they were once different. No matter how fluffy, no matter how cute, no matter what food you've named them after, they've got those little hints of the wild still left in them.
Are there any other ancient instincts that pop up in our household pets that you want to mention?
Well, I noticed a cool one with my cat, Ralph. He's a Bamilla.
A Bamilla?
Yeah, they're fun. You should look them up. Very fluffy, faded fur. But when he's turned a certain age, I noticed how if he got a fright, he gets this little crest up on his back. And I looked into it, and it seems that certain cat breeds have more of a kind of sagittal crest on their skulls. So it gives them this very cool, sort of funky mohawk on the odd occasion that he tries to look brave, which isn't very often, I must say.
For my brother's dog, he gets mad at the mail carrier. Perhaps there were some ancient mail carriers 100,000 years ago. No, I'm kidding. But perhaps back then, guarding the pack, that instinct,
Absolutely. I mean, it's all about looking after the group. So, we should be grateful. And perhaps their treat can just be having a little chew on some grass sometimes.
Well, Rachel, thanks so much for coming on the show and discussing this article you recently wrote. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's great to meet you.
Rachael Funnell is a science writer at IFL Science. Check out the article, Why Do Cats and Dogs Eat Grass?
my name is Jordan, and I'd like to invite you to join me on The Canadian Gothic, a podcast covering stories of Canadian crime, mystery, and the offbeat. The Canadian Gothic blends the spirit of late-night talk radio with the depth of a documentary film and applies that approach to both developing stories and historical cases. So if you're drawn to the dark, mysterious, and offbeat, search for and subscribe to The Canadian Gothic wherever you find podcasts.
You are listening to Canadian Gothic.